Paul, were you surprised to see Steve Cooper being sacked by Leicester City over the past week? Obviously, not the world's best start, but they're not in the relegation zone at this moment.
No, well that's it. I mean, you think of what's the remit at Leicester. I think this season it was to stay in the Premier League, which they're doing. They've not been in the bottom three. I think the results they've had. I think the damning defeat, the big blow, was the home defeat to Nottingham Forest. I think the performance in that game and actually the murmurings in the crowd. I mean, you forget that not long ago Leicester were Premier League champions, playing in the Champions League, winning the FA Cup. So there's a generation of fans who expect their club should be in a lot better position than where it is. But actually, when it's been down to the Championship, it's come back. They had a fantastic year last year with Enzo Maresca. Listen, I think Steve Cooper was on a hard into nothing when he came in because of the Nottingham Forest links. You can look at the two clubs and the supporters can say, oh no, we're not bothered by that. But as soon as things didn't start going right, it was always going to be the stick that was used to beat him with. And as an ex-Nottingham Forest manager, listen, a recent ex-Nottingham Forest manager as well, by the way, it's not going to be an easy sell for you to go into Leicester unless you're winning every week, not winning every week, unless you're winning games and playing in a certain style of football that the fans are enjoying watching. It's going to be a big act. I mean, he only lasted 157 days. So somebody that they saw fit 157 days ago to manage the football club, they're not in the bottom three. You could see it was always going to be. It was always pushing water up a hill with Steve Cooper at Leicester.
I've got sympathy for him, really. As I said, like Paul's mentioned, they weren't in the relegation zone, although they'd only picked up 2 wins from their 12 games. I thought he was doing a decent job there, and I think they'd have a decent chance of staying up this season if Cooper had stayed. They were proving quite hard to beat. There was no teams where they'd really been ran over, apart from that Forest game and Manchester United away, which they lost 3-0. But I think the problem for Steve Cooper was that he didn't have the players on side and he didn't have the fans on side, and once that happens there's no way back. And obviously the timing was a bit strange. You maybe thought Leicester would have done it during the most recent international break, but they've done it the first game back after the break, losing to Chelsea last weekend 2-1. But yeah, I think obviously not having the players on side has probably cost Cooper his job, and just shows that maybe the player power is in control of what was going on at Leicester.
That is a bit of the odd part of the decision, right? They've had 3 international breaks, and then coming out of the international break, they're playing Chelsea, who at the moment are flying as high as almost any team in the Premier League aside from Liverpool, really in great form. So you do wonder, what was the expectation? He has to win that match or get sacked. There has been news of Ruud van Nistelrooy probably most likely being the official signing. I believe that'll be announced today as the new manager. How risky is that for a team fighting relegation, Pete, to bring in Ruud van Nistelrooy as a manager who's never managed in the Premier League, other than two games for Manchester United?
Yeah, he obviously did all right for Manchester United against Leicester. I don't know if that's had any bearing on the decision. He saw Man United beat Leicester in the Carabao Cup and also in the Premier League during his interim basis in charge. But yeah, massive gamble, I think, from Leicester to bring in Van Nistelrooy. Obviously he's a big glamorous name, but as you mentioned, Will doesn't have any prior Premier League experience as a sole manager. Had that short spell at Manchester United working under Erik ten Hag, and then that interim basis of 4 games where he got 3 wins and a draw. But yeah, he's not really a tried and tested coach. Had 1 season in charge at PSV as well. So yeah, look, Ruud van Nistelrooy was working with top players at Manchester United and everything else, and it does seem that the players really enjoyed working under Van Nistelrooy as well. And that's probably the key here, is to get the players at Leicester enjoying their football again and enjoying working under an attack-minded coach, which I think Van Nistelrooy will be, but he's got to realise that he's working with different players at Leicester City, and the ultimate goal at Leicester this season is to stay up. So if Van Nistelrooy can achieve that, it will be a success. But again, he's going to have his work cut out, I think, because Leicester are going to find themselves in that relegation dogfight between now and the end of the season.
I missed your first part of that answer because my silly hotel dropped out. Apologies. But I think it's a chance. I do think it's a chance taking Van Nistelrooy. I really do. He's only had 1 full-time employment at PSV in the 22-23 season. Granted that he won the Dutch Cup, joined Man United as an assistant. But when you're coming into the Premier League and you're working with a squad of players like that Leicester have got that are, they're going to want to stay in the Premier League this year. He's not tried and tested, but listen, then you can look at it and say, how do you get experience? How do you get tried and tested if you don't get given an opportunity? You look at look at the Brighton manager, for example. You take a chance, you give a manager an opportunity, it pays off or it doesn't. Is he going to guarantee you Premier League safety, Ruud van Nistelrooy? I don't know, but is he going to be a manager potentially that's worked with very good players that can play in an attacking style and certainly change the way that they play, yeah, but it doesn't guarantee you Premier League safety. Interesting game this weekend. They're away at Brentford, who can't stop scoring goals at home. When he picked up 1 point away from home all season, they've got every single one of their points, bar one, at home Brentford. So it's another tough game for Leicester this weekend.
And do you think he'll have a shorter leash than should they have brought in, a tried and tested Premier League manager who, is known for avoiding relegation, a David Moyes or somebody like that? Is there a chance that we could see Ruud van Nistelrooy be in charge for a very short amount of time? I mean, the fixtures are going to come thick and fast between now and the next international break in March, Paul.
Yeah, I think he's there till the end of the season at least. I think if you make the change now, you're not going to change quickly. I think there's a manager coming in. I'm looking at the record: 1-2 drawn, 4 lost, 6. Okay, they're not in the bottom three, 1 point above the bottom three. You look at the players that they've got. They've got the players in that team that could play a more an attacking style of football. Defensively, they're susceptible. They've conceded too many goals, hence the reason they are where they are. It's who knows what's going to happen. I mean, you're not employing a tried and tested, proven manager at any kind of level, apart from the one season he had at PSV. So, you're looking elsewhere at other younger managers. He's probably ready for it, and he's a good coach. He's coming at Manchester United, worked with some very good players. Well, in the short time he was in charge at Manchester United, unbeaten. You look at the run that he was on. They put 3 past Leicester, and he had a really good run as an interim Manchester United manager. There's the credentials there, but it doesn't guarantee. Well, nothing's guaranteed in Premier League football. But I suspect it was a change that the Leicester fans wanted.
I think they rolled the dice when they went for Maresca last year, and obviously that paid off. He got them promotion, and they had a real identity of how they played. And Leicester see themselves as a progressive club. This is their 4th managerial change, I think, in 19 months. That's way too many. Obviously, they didn't see themselves losing Maresca before he ended up going to Chelsea in the summer, which they weren't too happy about. So, yeah, Van Nistelrooy is another roll of the dice, and Leicester will be hoping he can have a similar impact to what Maresca did.
And Evan Ferguson now linked with a move to Leicester City. Pete, would that be kind of a dream move for actually Evan Ferguson to get to potentially learn under Ruud van Nistelrooy, one of the best strikers in Premier League history?
Yeah, it'd be a great opportunity if it does end up happening. If Van Nistelrooy takes over and Evan Ferguson was to make that move to Leicester, there's no better player to be learning your striking trade under than Van Nistelrooy, who is one of the greatest strikers in Europe during his time at PSV, Man United and Real Madrid as well. There's a lot to happen before that potential deal could happen. Evan Ferguson, he's had a bit of an up and down time in recent times, struggled for game time at Brighton as well, but I still think there's a top quality striker in there. He'd be a huge signing for Leicester if they were able to get him. He could be vital for them if they are to sort of stay up this season, but Brighton will have to make that decision whether they want to loan him out or not as well. But yeah, I think Ferguson himself probably could be open to that opportunity in search of more minutes, and I think Jamie Vardy definitely needs a bit of help up there up front. I think in that Leicester team as well, although they have scored goals this season. I think they've scored in every game bar possibly that Manchester United defeat as well, so they can score goals. It's probably at the other end of the pitch where they've struggled, but yeah, like Evan Ferguson I think would be a huge signing for them, but it's not going to be an easy one, because if he is available there'll be a lot of interest in the Republic of Ireland international for sure.